Hey everybody, welcome to Roll the Dice with Dave. I hope everybody's having a great night. I'm already having a really good night with our guest, and she hasn't even been on 2 seconds yet. So I'm really looking forward to tonight. Everybody that is tuning in, if you would please hit that little like button on Facebook. Also, go ahead and hit the share button. Let's go ahead and share this video and get quite a few people involved. I think this is going to be just a fun, nice, laid-back conversation, which I think is what everybody needs right about now with all this craziness going on in the world. Also, if you have not checked out the fan page, Roll the Dice with Dave, you can check that out on Facebook. Also available on YouTube. Roll the Dice with Dave is available on YouTube. If you like and subscribe, you can keep up with all the different updates that are going on with Roll the Dice with Dave. So without any further hesitation, I am going to go ahead and bring on our guest, Lauren Dixon. Some of you, if you knew her from back in the day, may remember as the original LC or Lauren Cole. Hey, how's it going? How are you doing?
Hey.
Long time no see. How's everything?
It's so funny because I live in Wilmington now, and everyone is like, they call me Dixon or LD, but I'm so used to you calling me Cole. Like,
Cole, right?
I don't think you ever called me Lauren.
I don't think, maybe the first day of class. Maybe the first day of class when I first met you.
Yeah.
I probably went through the role and said, "Hey, Lauren Cole."
Yeah, I think that was the one and only time.
And then after that, I just called you Cole. And it's funny because now I work with a Cole, right? So I work with a Zach Cole, and all I do is ever call him Cole. And every time I call him Cole, I just kind of giggle because you're the first, I think, Cole I ever met, and that's the frame of reference.
I'm the only one you needed to know,
right? Is that it? That's no. So, oh my God, and we have Laura Lease in the house. So Laura is here. I can't wait because I'm sure she's going to be able to add plenty of little stories.
Oh gosh, I can't even imagine what her and Larry and my mom and dad are here.
Mom and Dad Cole, which we'll talk about your mom in just a second because I have a few interesting stories, I think, about your mom, and maybe this will bring back some memories of how I used to talk to you about your mom because of who she reminded me of, right?
Okay.
So we'll talk about that. But do you mind just introducing yourself to everybody and kind of giving everybody just a little background information on you?
Sure. My name's Lauren Dixon, formerly Lauren Cole. I am currently a wine rep for Winebow Distributing. I represent about 4,000 plus different wines. Quite a large portfolio, but a really fun portfolio. I grew up in upstate New York. I'm a New Yorker. Go Giants. I still love you. I went to ECU, and that's where we met. Hospitality management, concentration food and beverage, a minored in business. I actually completed ECU in 4 years, which is something to be said.
That was actually going to be one of my questions. I think you were one of the few 4 years. Most of the ECU grads that I knew and became very close with were on that 5, 6, or 7 year plan. But you were only there 4 years. So.
4. Well, my dad said, you can go to any college you want, but you get 4 years out of me. That's it. That's all I'm paying for. So out-of-state tuition was quite expensive, and I didn't really feel like paying for that. So I completed in 4 years. But yeah, and then after that, I moved to Wilmington with my now husband, David Dixon. And we've been here for, I think, like 8 or 9 years.
Damn, has it been that long?
I know, it's crazy. It might even been longer. I can't keep track anymore. It's just COVID made everything just like a blur for everybody. But yeah, so that's pretty much the background on me.
So you got to ECU in 06 then, right?
Yeah, I was 6 to 10. Yeah.
6 to 10. Wow, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So we have known each other for 15 years.
I know.
That's crazy.
Family. Please tell your family. Send them all my love.
I will, because I know.
I feel like
at least my wife is on.
They were kids like when I met them, and now they're like playing football, and I mean, it's like insane to me. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, and his kids, and I'm like, oh, they're not really kids anymore. They're like teenagers now.
So, well, actually, even beyond that. So, you remember Sadie? Sadie's 20. She's a sophomore at West Texas A&M. She's killing the game there. Diego is 18, right? So he's getting ready to go to college. Um, One of the captains of the football team helped lead his team to a Florida State Final Four bid. So, I mean,
Huge. That's
yeah.
awesome.
And the ones that you probably remember because Pablo was little. You know, he was
Very
born
little.
in
Yeah.
Greenville.
Mhm.
He's 15 now. You know, got a girlfriend. So does Diego. So, and then Sophia was actually born after you were at ECU. You know, she's 13 now, right? So she's about to be 4. So it's crazy to think.
Are we that old?
Well, I've been that old. You are now getting older and are just closing that gap. But it's crazy because I remember taking my kids into the classroom sometimes when they were
Oh,
little
yeah.
days. So, man, it's crazy to think that we've known each other for
that
for
long.
15, for that
Right.
long period of time. And I think it's awesome. Your husband's on here throwing you some love. So, I want to stick to the introductions because
Sure.
you know I had the pleasure of getting to meet some of your family when they came down. So there's 2 people in particular um, that were near and dear to my heart. So the first one I want to talk about is Nana, right? So I remember
Yep.
one time when you came to visit, and I want to say it was in Rivers West. Your whole family was sitting there. We were just kind of walking around, and your grandmother was sitting down, and your grandmother was quite frisky, man. Your grandmother was no joke. I just remember her zest for life.
She's still kicking, man. She's going.
Oh my
strong.
God! So how old is she now? I know you're not supposed to like.
She's in her 80s. I can't remember exactly how old she is, but she's in her 80s. But I mean, in her 80s, but probably in her 30s at heart still.
So she's younger than us in her heart, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember her being so feisty and everything, and I remember making the joke that meeting her in different circumstances. If I wasn't married, I'd probably be her grandpa, right? Because she was so legit, man. She had a zest for life.
She has that effect on men.
So you just have to, next time you talk to Nana, please tell her. I don't know if she'll remember Dr. Rivera, but
all right, she's probably going to tune in pretty soon.
Tell her Dr. Rivera says hey, and that I still love her, and I hope she's doing good.
Right? The first time she met David, I think, we went to a show. I can't remember where it was. It was in North Carolina, and David was playing with the Embers. And we went to a show, and David, I was like, "That's the guy I'm dating, Nanny," and I think she pinched his butt that night.
Yo, that's awesome.
Like,
that is great.
Got off stage, and she was like, "Good job," and pinched his butt, or she pinched the bass player John Ray's butt. I can't remember, but she pinched someone's, but probably both. But yeah.
But you know what? If she probably knew, right? She knew David was going to be the one, and that's how she indicated that and put it out in the universe by pinching his butt.
We just
spent
almost 11 years together, David and I, dating.
Oh my gosh, that's
3 years
crazy.
Married, but yeah, 11 years. I'm like, I don't know how you put up with me that long, but vice versa, yeah.
But you know what? It seems like yesterday because I remember having the conversation. You were like, "Hey, I'm dating this guy, David Dixon. He played," and I remember actually, I want to say we met out at the bar he was playing at. And I'm trying to think which place it was, but it seems like yesterday. I'm sitting here thinking like, man, it's a long time ago, but it feels like yesterday, all this. And what's crazy is, there's so many people even tuned in, Larry and Laura. There's so many of you that I had relationships with that it's crazy to think how long ago you guys got to get. Oh my God, my wife remembers. So she said we went out to tiebreakers. Yo, that's right. It was tiebreakers. Yeah, I'm a little bit older. My memory's not
Nanny
as good.
just said Nanny's watching.
Oh, hey, Nanny. How are you doing? I miss you and I love you. I hope you're doing well. That's crazy. Tiebreakers, man. That she remembers that. Okay, now Laura's saying Chess 505. I don't think it was Chess 505 anymore at that point.
Well, that's where I met David.
That's where you met David, yeah.
Yeah, I met him at Chess 505. He used to host a blues night every Tuesday night, and I bartended. And, the old bartender behind the bar, he starts singing and playing guitar, and I'm like, someone introduced me to this guy.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get to the Cloud Wine section. So we'll talk a little bit more about you and David there. But now, just the second part of the introduction, I want to talk a little bit about your mom. Because I don't know if you remember, I'd always talk about your mom. Whenever she was around or ever you came around, I would talk about your mom.
Okay.
Because she reminded me of Michael Corleone's wife in The Godfather. I would always compare her to the actress. Now I can't, the actress isn't coming to mind. But I had like that infatuation with your mom because I thought she looked just like the actress. And I always wanted to say, hey, can I get a picture with you so I could try and tell people, hey, guess who was on campus, right? Look who I was hanging out with, Michael Corleone's wife. But I never could muster up the courage like to do it because it was still your mom.
And I was like, I don't know who you're talking about.
But your mom was so cool. Every time I talk with your mom was, and I'll go ahead and say it, your mom's a badass woman, man. She really is. She's a cool woman. And your dad was really cool too, right? So your dad is just like a guy's guy.
He's G-Money, man. We call him, his name's Gary, and we call him G-Money.
So he is such a guy's guy, and I could see even now, like if he was let's just go to the bar and hang out and have a drink, right? I could just see hanging out with Pops, and I think that was just a testament to the type of relationship we had. That it wasn't just that we had a good relationship. Your family had a good relationship with me whenever they came around, and I remember you guys and always hold you guys near and dear to my heart. So
thank you.
That just gives a little background of all of us from there. So this is my mom tuning in too. So she's like, I need to catch up.
Hi, Mom.
So I want to go ahead and get into the next section. I feel like you and I haven't talked in a while, just kind of chit-chatting. I remember back in the ECU days, I used to talk in the intro class a little bit about my guilty pleasure of just sitting and watching Jersey Shore and that kind of stuff. So do you remember that? Do you remember talking?
Jersey Shore? No, I don't remember that.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I used to talk about that all the time.
I'm severely judging you right now.
So when I used to come in and be like, "It's Jersey Shore," you don't remember that? That's crazy. I used to do that in class all the time, or say, "Hey, I think today I'm on GTL for Gym Tan Laundry."
Okay, I remember that.
I used to. So my question to you is, with all the stuff going on, do you have any guilty pleasure shows that you're into right now that you would maybe recommend for people to kind of kick back, watch during just this weird time?
Sure. So it's funny. You know how I sent you that Game of Thrones gift? It's I drink and I know things. That's like my motto. I love him. I love that character. I'm sure everyone has watched Game of Thrones, but David and I, we just couldn't find anything on TV that we were watching. We kind of had watched all our shows, and we started rewatching it, and we are like binge watching it right now. I think we watched like 4 episodes yesterday. It's kind of fun rewatching it because you pick up on all the little things. But new shows, The Queen's Gambit. Oh,
love that on Netflix. I've watched it. I absolutely love that show.
Love that show. Yeah. And I guess more of a guilty pleasure would be I always go to Florida for my birthday, which was February 26th. So I was just there. And I always go, my parents are there 6 months out of the year. It's a nice break from the cold weather, get some sunshine, get away, chill with Mom. I know that people that are like, you want to go hang out with your parents for Valentine's Day or for your birthday? And I'm like, if you only knew my parents, you wouldn't.
I was about to say, because
like that. I love it. So yeah, while I was there, I read a whole book. I was like, my goal is to like get away from work, get away from my computer, get away from my phone, and I want to read a book. And I read the Bridgerton Netflix. On Netflix. I read the first book and then I came back and binge watched the whole first season. So
Did you really? All right. So I want to be honest.
Please tell me you watch it.
Okay, so Kathy was like, "Hey, Bridgerton, let's go ahead and check it out." Mm-hmm. It just wasn't hitting like for me. Now I think the lead actor, I think he's I think he's legit, right? I like him as an actor. I think he's going to be great. They're talking about him
Yeah, he's
possibly, yeah, possibly lifting the role of being cast not to replace Chadwick Boseman, but to be the new Black Panther potentially.
Oh, that's
So they're talking about him. They're also talking about him potentially being the new James Bond, which I think would be. I just, he's such a good looking dude, man. You know what I mean? He could work in any of those roles, but there was just something about Bridgerton that just wasn't hitting with me. And I think I sat and watched 4 episodes with my wife, and then it just kind of fizzled away. And every time she brings up, hey, we need to start watching again, I conveniently, that's when I start doing like laundry and all kinds of other stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I feel I've invested enough in it that I'm going to have to watch it now to try and catch the end.
I think I got really more invested in it because I read the book first, and now I downloaded like the next book. So I'm actually reading because it's like a series. So it was based off of these novels.
Okay.
So I loved the first book. And so now I'm on the second book. And I think the book will be the next season. So I think I got more invested in it because of that. But yeah, Queen's Gambit for sure. I mean, that was like, we were binge watching that 100%. So.
Yeah, it's such a well put together show. And it's a little tough for me to get into Bridgerton. I think it's just that old school. There's so many things that stick out to me, such as like the meat market of young girls, right? So I'm sitting there, I was like, that's kind of icky.
Yeah, well,
but if you can get past that and just sit and be like, this is a show.
Having daughters, I would probably.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think that's it for me. But I think there'll be some point where I will sit. What are you talking about? Watch 2 seasons. Oh, she's talking about Game of Thrones. She's talking about Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. And I will admit, I do feel a little bad because she first talked about Game of Thrones. And I said, I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons dork. I'm not going to watch Game of Thrones, right? I said, that looks stupid. And then my diversity issues class called me out for not being open-minded and trying new things.
Good for them.
So I sat and watched the first episode and was hooked. And would literally sit on a Saturday and almost watch a whole damn season's worth.
Oh, yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm like, oh God, 12 hours have gone by and I've sat here and watched Game of Thrones all day. But you didn't realize it because it's Game of Thrones.
It's so good.
I could easily watch it again.
It's really fun to rewatch it because there's so much foreshadowing that you did not pick up on. And so like, because where it's going, you pick up on it way more. And it's like phenomenal.
Yeah. So that's my brother from the jungles, Larry Lease. Good to see you out here, brother. I love you. Can't wait till we can all get together and hang out again, which that'll be something we'll talk about a little bit. Maybe a Vegas trip reunion. Maybe we have to set something
what did
up.
You say we were what was it, a decade ago? How long ago was it?
It's longer than that, right? It's
12 years? 12
years. I think it's 12 years.
Yeah. You had to be 21 to go on the trip.
Had to be 21 to go on the trip.
And I turned 21 the day before we went.
So this is a good segue into the HTM highlights. And I want to stick to your area because wineries are a big part of tourism. And a lot of them got hit really, really hard. But my question to you is, have you noticed anything special about how they've been coming back, what they are doing, how they're dealing with COVID? I've gotten a lot of analytic reports, but nothing really on wineries. And I just wanted to get your take since you do work for Winebow.
Yeah, they've been affected. Everyone's been affected. The whole transportation part of it has been affected because everybody is importing through port and all the ports are so backed up. We can't even get containers in there. So it's like sitting and we can't get it checked in. So everything is being delayed. And then obviously during COVID, tariffs happened, which extremely affected my industry. So not only were we having problems getting product here, we were having like a lot of my European wines were doubling in price and they were being taken off lists because, you can't pour when you were pouring a $12 bottle of Chardonnay because it was a $12 bottle of wine and now it's 24. It's now by the bottle, not by the glass.
Glass,
so, that got affected. I mean, during COVID, basically like the world shut down and they started drinking more. So that was good, but restaurants got really severely hit. And even now they're still having a really hard time coming back because even if they can open back up, they're still at 50% occupancy. And so they're still trying to make their margins. And then they're doing, you can only have an hour. And in North Carolina, I don't know how it was in Florida, but we had like a curfew. I had to stop selling alcohol by 10 o'clock. Or like last fall was this time, try telling the city of Wilmington, who is drinkers times a million, that they have to stop drinking at 10. Did not go over well.
Yeah, well, Florida didn't care, right? So Florida it literally is almost like Texas now in that it's a whole nother country. You almost feel, I literally feel like I'm not in the United States with the way things are going everywhere else compared here to Florida, which has its good and bads. But they're not stopping people from drinking. I think actually in some instances, COVID is terrified of Florida. If Larry's a perfect indication of a good old Florida boy, you're probably right, man. Because Larry born and bred in Florida, and Larry's a different cut. So it's just different. They even started doing like to-go drinks and stuff like that. So
we did that, yeah, we're doing that too, but that was way later. But even like, so back to like just other areas, like South Africa right now, I'm really pushing South African wines because they're dry. They can't drink in South Africa right now, which again, South African drinker, their water is Chenin Blanc. Like, not a joke. Like, they drink Chenin Blanc from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed. So I'm like, why would you do that? If you're trying to keep them out of the hospitals, if you take alcohol away from them, it's going to put them into the hospital.
Oh man, that's
really hard. And then even more on that with the import side, we're having a really hard time right now getting cork, getting glass. So we can't even bottle right now in a lot of areas, it's just challenging. And like I had a shipment coming, it was mostly Spanish wines coming in, and the whole shipment, once it got here, got damaged. And I was waiting on placements. Like I was a month behind with these placements, and I'm like, it's coming in a month, it's coming in 2 weeks, it's coming in a week, it's going to be here tomorrow. And then I find out that at the port, something happened and the whole truck got damaged.
Oh,
so now they had to reorder the wines, reship the wines, get them back through the port. So you're talking about another 2 months right there. And not everybody understands that whole process. They think we just can order wine and it comes,
Yeah.
So the boss just tuned in and she said it was frozen in the parking lot. Literally the wine froze.
Oh man, that's nuts. So this is an invitation for you and David next year on the weekend, the 24th, 25th, and 26th. You guys need to be in St. Augustine for our Spanish Wine Festival, hosted by Flagler College and yours truly in the Hospitality and Tourism Management Department. So you guys will have to come down to St. Augustine, drink a little Spanish wine, eat a little Spanish inspired menus.
A little paella.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys can put it on your calendar and make it down. Hopefully we'll be back to normal at that point. So, what's crazy about sitting here and listening to you, if somebody had told me in 2006 that Lauren is going to be taking you to school on industry analytics regarding the wine industry, I would have been like, Lauren Cole? No way. So
whatever, you saw it in me.
No, this is cool. And I'm saying that, but I'm serious, right? This is really cool listening to you just do your thing. It's really cool because you really have just immerse yourself in your job. You're so knowledgeable, and those are things that I just would not know on a normal day-to-day basis. And I try to stay attuned now to the industry more than ever. So that was a pretty cool moment.
2006, if you would have asked me if I would have been in the wine business, I'd be like, what? No, I'm going to own my own restaurant, and that's going to be my child, and that's going to be my thing, and I'm going to be boss lady. You know, I don't want family. I don't want anything. My family will be the restaurant. That was Lauren.
So
Now,
Dave agrees.
Lauren drinks wine, and I got a family.
Spanish Wine Festival sounds amazing. So Dave's on board, and I love it. So you have Beth saying, "Dude, she's an industry badass." That is all. I agree with you. She is a. You were a badass back in college, and you just transitioned it into your everyday life. So moving to the next piece, which we're still sticking with the wine. So I just threw out a little poll just to see what people preferred, red or white. I left the blushes out because I'm not a fan, right? So it's either red or white. So my question was preference. 59% of people that responded said they prefer red to whites. So my question to you is, what is your wine preference? It doesn't necessarily have to be red or white. It could be whatever you choose. And if somebody was just getting started into the idea of wine, what are maybe some recommendations you have?
Okay.
Let's see some more of the industry badassery right now.
I'm a rosé girl. I come home and that's what I want. I want a dry French rosé, or I'm actually drinking a rosé from Argentina right now, from the Santa Julia winery. That's all sustainably farmed and vegan and delightful. You can get it at Whole Foods. And it comes in a 1 liter, which is very wonderful. Because David now is into rosés. He used to be like pour a maker's mark and call it a day.
I was about to say I never took him as a wine guy, but that's awesome.
And then he switched over to red wine. He likes red wine, and within the last probably month, like it's all he drinks is rosé. And I'm like, well, when did this happen? So I can't keep rosé in my house anymore. But yeah, tough question to ask a wine rep what they prefer. I will answer that with depending on my mood. And what I'm eating and the environment. There's so many things, it's just like picking a restaurant. It's like, what are you in the mood for? That's how I pick my wine for the night, or the bag that I take out in the market. I'm also known as Miss Bubbles, as couple of my clients. I usually always throw a bag or bottle of bubbles into my wine bag when I present. It's the thing that I always do with new clients too. When I'm meeting you for the first time and I'm tasting you the first time, I always start with usually champagne. I mean, like, cheers. This is going to be a great relationship. I love bubbles, and not just champagne. I love cava. I love Prosecco. I love roots. I mean, I love it from all over the place. So there's just beautiful sparkling wine out there. But yeah, my go-to probably every day is, you got your sister into rosé too.
Is that your sister Allie?
That's my sister. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. She's like a mom, 2 kids now?
2 kids now.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That happened 6. Yeah.
So the last time I remember seeing your sister, I think it was at your graduation. Like actually.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
My boss, rosé bubbles, are the answer. Yeah. So yeah, but every day I'm a rosé girl. I like dry rosés. I think they're beautiful. Everyone sees pink and they think sweet. And I'm like, no, you're thinking white Zinfandel. I'm like, they're all red grapes, and then once you press, you immediately remove the skins and it leaves this like rich, bright fruit without the weight. If they would have left the skins on, it would have been a dark red color, like some of the wine behind me. So a lot in the summertime, I lean people toward that are red wine drinkers in the summer. It's too hot, especially in Florida. I can't imagine drinking red wine in the summer there. And this is a great way. You're still getting the depth of a red wine, but it's clean and it's refreshing. And, it's like when you come home from playing golf or whatever, and you just want that Mexican lager, or you want that Coors Light or whatever, that is rosé to me. It's just refreshing and lights the palate up, and it's pretty.
So I'm gonna have to give it a try, see where we go from there. But
what do you prefer to drink?
I'm really a red guy. I don't know why. I've always been a red guy. Prefer it, and it's probably from just the time I grew up where they were like, red is healthier, right? You got to drink red, it's healthier. You know what I mean? So it ends up sticking in your head. But since moving to,
are you still a rum guy?
yeah, still the Cuba Libre, the Bacardi Light with a lot. Yeah, still am.
Funny.
But since moving to St. Augustine, I would say that the wine palette has definitely expanded. You know, we have distilleries here in town. We do the Spanish Wine Festival. A lot of our advisory board members are wine people. So we just created a beverage appreciation class, and the focus of it is wines. Even though we are also doing beer and spirits, the focus is wine. At the end of it, students will be able to sit for their SOM exam if they want to. So we're really trying to push the envelope because here in St. Augustine, man, wine's where it's at. So I'm really trying to expand the palette and move away from just the reds. I had a good Spanish wine of Bilboa the other day, which I really enjoyed. So I'm just taking it as it comes. Right now, it's reaching the point somebody drops a glass of wine in front of me. Yep, try it. Let's see where this goes. Might like it. So
you would like this wine from Borisov family called Tres Picos.
Okay, I have to keep that in mind. Actually, I'll write that down so I don't forget.
Tres Picos. If I had one handy, I would show it to you. But, that's like a go-to Spanish reds. I love it.
Okay.
100% old vine Grenache, and it's gorgeous.
Cool. Well, so we're going to stick on the wine concept and named today's show Cloud Wine, right? So, and the reason I went with it is just because every time we have been able to reconnect, you just really seem in your element, and you just really seem happy with everything. Everything seems to be gelling, but especially with your job and what you're doing. So you talked a bit about what you do as a wine rep. One of my first questions to you is, are you a SOM, or are you moving towards becoming a SOM, or are you just kind of good with what you're doing now?
So a SOM would be really if I could go. I know I would pass level 1 probably without studying too hard. I could probably do level 1. Level 2, I would definitely have to study for sure. I don't have any certifications. I was actually about to go for my CSW, which is basically like certified wine educator. And I was in the process of taking the classes, and then I switched distributors in the middle of that. And then I was crazy for a year, and then COVID happened. So because I got this huge portfolio that I was trying to learn, I'm like, maybe focus on this and not worry about getting your certification right now. But SOM to me is if you are going to be a SOM working the floor in a restaurant. That is more of what that is for. If I were to go anything, it would be a CSW, which is a certified wine educator, which I think is definitely something I'm going to go for and get. I just, there's been a pandemic happening.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Things going on right now that I haven't been able to focus on that. But I would at least try to get level 1 of a CSW or level 2. So
well, okay. So a CSW, just to explain a little bit, like what is the significance? Like how is that viewed kind of in your industry as far as having your CSW?
It's in, I think, my industry, for being a wine sales rep, it's better than a SOM, but SOM is more notable because of Netflix and the SOM TV and the SOM on Netflix, all the shows, that kind of stuff. And probably all of them are also CSWs. So SOM is more of, yes, wine knowledge, but service side of knowledge, because you're in a restaurant. CSW is more of like diving into the soil types and diving into the appellations and like really going so far deep into wine and the history of wine and really being able to explain that to people. So that's why that's a little bit more of what I would want to do, because that's a lot of knowledge based. Like, I love history. I love it. And I think that's why this job really lent itself to me, because I love constantly learning. You can never know everything in the wine business. People are so afraid of, people who know a little bit about wine. And really it's just, well, we drank a lot. And that's how we know. And we read a lot, I have had several people come up to me and they're like, you're so successful, you've got knowledge, how do you do it? And I go, start reading. Reading is key. Get these books, get Windows on the Wall, like get all of these books that like explain this a little bit more in depth. And I mean, it can get quite boring. I'm not gonna lie, when you're reading about roots and soil types and all this stuff. But when you hear it from families, which has been the really cool thing about COVID, I know that sounds bad, but the cool thing about COVID is we've been doing all these Zooms, educational Zooms with winery owners, with winemakers, and we're learning from them their story, their soil types, and it's a lot more interesting that way. But yeah, like just to say, that's kind of the breakdown between SOM and CSW. It's just more restaurant based, more educational based.
No, that actually is fascinating. I'm going to have to invite you to guest speak in a couple of the times with the beverage appreciation class. So I'll put one former Cole in touch with the Cole I know now, and then you guys can work that out. Yeah, it's the Cole connection, right? So I like this. This is a buddy of mine from high school, Luis Rivera, who owns a great company that makes amazing barbecue sauce. You guys definitely need to look him up. Barbecue Lou, unbelievable barbecue sauce that you can put on all kinds of things. But he talks about the pandemic, just the issues, some wine drinkers to go more by brand notoriety and alcohol content as opposed to the nuances of winemaking, which I know a lot of people that shifted because they wanted something with a little bit more alcohol content. Actually, I was reading an article that talks about there was a point where people were spending twice as much on wine, not necessarily more product, but they were willing to pay twice as much per bottle, and we're moving up to more expensive wine from that standpoint. So, wine is still where it's at. It seems like when people are happy, they drink wine. When people are sad, they drink wine.
It's a good industry to be in during a pandemic.
It is. There's a pandemic. People are still drinking wine. So sticking with that, you kind of gave us a little background on being a CSW, but I want to know for you, what was the first wine that you ever drank that just kind of blew you away and you went, oh, this is so good. I know I'm asking all the tough questions. Yeah. There's going to be some other ones that we'll see.
I went to ECU. And I was working the entire time from freshman year to senior year.
Oh, I know.
You were in the industry because I didn't want my dad to have to pay for all my bills, and I had some sense of pride in that. I was like, no, I'll be able to afford my car. Just like, if you could just help me with this one payment, and then I'll pay you back. I promise. So like, I don't really remember like the first wine that really, but like the wine I used to drink all the time, and I'll give this shout out to Mike Santos, who owns Chef's 505.
Man, that's a blast from the past. I haven't heard that name.
Right? We still hang out all the time. I love Santos. But he used to carry a wine, and I used to sell a lot of, called Snapdragon. I could not tell you what varietal it was. I think it was a red blend. But he knew I liked it so much, and he was like, well, you don't have to buy it at the wine shop. I'll just sell it to you like at cost. Like I just get a case of it or whatever. And I was like, hookups of the industry.
I was about to say a little Stewart sales. He buys it and just put it.
Yeah. And it was a big, bold, slutty red blend to explain it. But David and I would drink it all the time. It was like my favorite. My parents used to drink this wine, I remember, called Estrella. And I think I remember like trying that and liking that. Another big cab from Cali, I think. And then when I was doing my internship at McCormick and Smith's in the Inner Harbor in Baltimore.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, that was a summer of blur. I was really big on Dynamite, a brand called Dynamite. It was a cab from California that was really, so I started reds. Red was really, because that's what my parents drank. My parents drank big Napa cabs. And so I was kind of spoiled, I guess, in that. I wasn't that, what was that, like blue wine or whatever that all the young people used to drink. I never did that.
A blue one. Well, I
Yeah.
remember ECU, just like so many places, the wine drinkers I knew would just slap the bag at tailgates, right?
Right. Yeah. Slap
that,
that's right.
that was really
That was a Swansea pink Zinfandel.
yeah, that was all I ever knew of ECU sophistication when it came to wines. I love this. So David is talking about that. You turned him on to Snapdragon.
Yeah, because he was drinking
Or
Yellowtail.
Yellowtail.
I was like,
Thank you for bringing me out of the gutter. So Dave basically admitted to marrying up in this case right here. So, this is the best. So Boone's Farm. So
I think that's
geez Louise. I love it. And this is what I like. So everybody's throwing out some of their favorite wines.
Smith and Hook.
So Smith and Hook. Yeah.
I don't even represent Smith and Hook, but my parents, when they come through, they're like, "Can you ask your customer to bring us in a case of Smith and Hook?"
Okay, so that's Mama Cole, right, with the Smith and Hook.
Yeah.
So Brotherhood, yeah, I know, sweet, actually sparkling wine. So that's my mom, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's funny just how, at least when I'm thinking this, wine is one of those things that kind of brings people together. Everybody it really is a unifying drink. So kind of with touching on that, if you could only drink one wine the rest of your life, what is the one?
Like the most difficult question to ask.
I had to, and I was going to save that one for a little bit, but I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and ask right now.
It's okay. I'm gonna say Pinot Noir, because it comes in rosé and it comes in red, so it's still the same thing. But I mean, I don't know. I probably rosé, just be a French rosé, just because probably a Provence French rosé, just because that's what I drink most. But Pinot Noir is probably one of my favorite grapes. Cab Franc is really good too. There's a lot. Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I would probably say one. If I had to pick a grape, it'd be Pinot Noir. If I had to pick a wine, it would probably be Provence Rosé. But I mean, you can't even throw champagne in there. I mean, that's a really hard question.
This is such a great mom question right here. She's like, Dave, what was the wine I drank at your place? I have no idea, Ma. I really don't, because there's so many different.
Just don't say Yellowtail.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not Yellowtail. And I've lived in so many different places. Oh, you know what? Are you thinking of the West Texas wine, Mom? I think she's thinking of the Sweet Red out in West Texas, maybe.
Oh, okay.
In Lubbock, and that could be it. Kendall Jackson, Ventures Reserve, 2013 cab. All right. So yeah, it's got to be the sweet red. It's got to be. They refer to it as the nectar of the gods out there.
I mean, Carolina, it's sweet wine country here. So.
Yeah. So as we kind of get ready to wrap up this little section of Uncloud Wine before moving to talk about some other stuff, we're gonna revisit some of the best days of your life at ECU and talk a little about the Vegas trip and Vegas in general. If somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps, what would be the maybe best little piece of advice that you would give somebody who wants to kind of end up being the next Lauren Dixon?
Good luck, child.
No.
You don't want to be me. I mean, like I said before, reps, younger reps have come up to me and they're like, how did you get in this industry? Or people like in the restaurant industry. I get a lot of that. A lot of, I become friends with the places that I service. So like I do a lot of staff trainings and I learn the staff and I remember them and I go in and see them and I make sure to say hi to them and shout outs on Facebook and that kind of stuff. And, a couple of them have come up to me and they're like, you just look like you love your job. Like, how do I get into that? And I literally tell them to start reading. I'm like, read wine books, read the wine Bible, read I think it's called Windows of the World. I have it somewhere here in this house. But great, Beth, what is it? If you're still on this thing, I think it's Windows of the World. That was the first book that I read that really kind of turned me on. But I also told people to get to know your reps, and it's all about that foot in the door. I mean, that's this industry. That's the hospitality industry. It's, you gotta be connected. You have to stay relevant. And why I'm in this industry is, and I'm glad you're doing the Spanish thing, you know, Spanish wine tasting, to get people in this industry, because no offense, ECU didn't really like talk about being a wine rep a ton. Like, it wasn't really a job that we were introduced to that much. And so I didn't really know that much that people could be a wine rep. And I was managing a restaurant, and regulars came in. There were a couple, Rob and Amy Kukar, and I became really good friends with them, got to know them. And they're like, who picks out your wine? And I'm like, well, it's a standard list, but I do some of the features. You know, the owner lets me pick out, taste with the reps, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, why aren't you in the wine industry? And I was like, well, what do you mean? They're like, well, why aren't you on this side? Like, you read about wine, you know about wine, you taste wine, your palate's great. You know, why aren't you in this world? And it was them who I ended up finding out were importers, wine importers that had just moved here from Charlotte. And they were through a local distributor, and there was a job opening, and they're like, we think you should go for it. I'm like, well, I've never done this before. They're like, you'll be great at it. Like, you're personable, people like you, you know, you're outgoing, and you're a hard worker. That's what you have to be. And so I went for the interview. I got the job. That was my first distributor. Within a year, a bigger distributor picked me up, and now I'm on my third distributor, which in my opinion is the best one in this area. So, you know,
you're with Winebow now, correct?
Yes. Winebow, formerly Country Vintner.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's a great piece of advice. And you know what? I would agree with you. I think at ECU, that was something that we really didn't touch on. But here is such a core, you know, it's one of our 5 core areas, you know, food, local restaurants, beverage. We have wineries, distilleries in the area. You know, our culture, museums, tourism, that really is the focal point. Not that Greenville doesn't have its moments, but I think compared to St. Augustine, when you look at beverage, is so deeply rooted in the hospitality and tourism industry here.
But it needs to be, you know, like, I wish I would have gone in and known about the industry a lot more when I was starting out on, because it clearly was the right fit. Like, I wanted to be in the restaurant industry. I got a little burnout on it, and I didn't know what I was going to do. It's like, I know I want this. I know I can work as hard to make this happen. But when I found this, I'm like, this is the perfect fit for me. You know, I get to talk to, you know, a bunch of people throughout the entire day, ask them how their day was, start the conversation, drink wine with them, tell stories about stuff. You know, that's what I love to do. And you know, I work my butt off to do it good. So
I tell you what, it's awesome having Beth. I may have to reach out to Beth to have her on the show sometime. She's like throwing all kinds of jewels out there. And this is a great segue. So Laura has thrown this out. I didn't realize how much I loved wine until Chandler's wine class. So that is like, you know, Chandler was such a staple. And I remember when he first started doing that class, it wasn't just wine, right? He had some spirits, he had some beer sometimes, you know, when he first started doing it. But that was really that introduction to wine and the enjoyment of it. So
then it wasn't talked about in his class. It wasn't talked about as an actual job potential. It was just talking about wine in general.
Wine in general. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, Dr. Chandler, I think we had a couple classes at Finelli's. We used to go up and have classes. We'd go. I was
about to say, yeah, may Chandler rest in peace, right? And he knows I'm not going to mean any harm by this, because he was actually one of my best friends and supporters at ECU. But it was probably more than just a couple, right? It was probably more than just a couple.
A bottle or two.
Yeah. So, oh man, I tell you, I miss that guy so much every day. Such a good influence. Yeah, such a good influence. Mm-hmm. But I want to throw this out. So Laura went ahead and kind of laid it down. She was talking about Chandler's wine class as one of her moments. So many people are following in. Emily, love Emily. So pairing of food to wine. So many people remember that. It is a staple of great life at ECU. What is one of your best memories of being at East Carolina University?
The day you threw a ball at my head at the end.
Oh, snap. I didn't even remember. Yeah. It was one of those stress balls. Oh,
stress balls. You're doing this, and I said something sarcastic, like I normally.
And I chucked it across the classroom.
The room, and it hit me right in the back of the head.
That was the day I realized, even as a former baseball player, I still had it. Right, I could still throw a baseball across the room, even though it wasn't a baseball. It was a stress ball. I do remember that.
Yeah, no, that was. I mean, obviously, that wasn't my favorite part. But, I mean, our crew was so tight. Like,
yeah,
that group, our hospitality group, was like, we were so close. You know, I'm so glad Emily is on here. Girl, I haven't seen you in forever. I hope you're doing well. But you know, that whole group that went to Vegas, we just had such a blast, and we're all still connected. You know, we just went back I mean, well, not recently, but we went back and we did the homecoming, like tailgating. I think you guys were supposed to come, right? And then
we were.
And
yes, and we couldn't make it down. You know, it was so many strange things, because I was also supposed to go to your wedding, right? I got the invitation to your wedding, and that was around the time that my aunt had passed away from cancer. And I was like, hey, I was just not going to be able to make it. And I feel at times still, it was so many years ago, but still like recovering from that moment of my aunt passing away, because she was like hospitality personified.
Yeah.
She always wanted people at the house and everything. But, you know, you're so right about that crew.
Crew, you know, like I can't really think of like one specific like thing that was my favorite, but my favorite thing was definitely our hospitality group that they actually graduated, I think, a year.
So some did graduate a year before. I know Larry and Laura did, and that crew. Well, and I remember for Larry's graduation, where his parents gave me, I don't know if you went to Larry's graduation, they gave me a can of Spam to walk up and hand to him as he was coming off stage. I don't know if he remembers that. But to me, those were so typical of ECU moments, which for me made ECU so special, and why I cried on my last day, right? August 5th, 2016. I remember walking out of my office for the last time, and I literally cried, because even though I knew it was necessary for me to make a transition to move in the direction I wanted to go, that was a place that I absolutely loved, and it was because of so many of the students there.
Yeah, remember when we used to like go up and have hospitality socials at Ham? Like
oh my gosh, yes.
Like upstairs. Remember that? That was awesome.
That was. So I wrote down a few things that were so ECU, right? And knowing I was going to talk to you, I just had to visit this ECU connection.
David, you're totally right, by the way. ECU being West Virginia, that was one of the best games ever. We like stormed the field. That was definitely one of the best days at ECU for sure.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That game? Oh my, I was at that game. That was
I wasn't, but I remember that game. So here are some key things that are so ECU. One of the things I wrote down was the purple whipped cream that Starbucks would put on their drinks at game days. Yeah, so that was so ECU. Let's see if you can match me on this one. Purple.
Gold.
There you go. Whenever you say purple, somebody will say gold, right? So that was another special thing. Did you ever do the polar bear plunge?
I didn't do that, but I did something else with like, it was like a spray paint run or something that was really big. Like I think my freshman year. But
and
I never did the polar bear plunge.
Oh man, well they filled it with ice and everything. Yeah. And you know, people were like, I do this polar bear plunge just because I want to get the t-shirt.
I went down south to be warm, not cold.
Not cold. So I love it. Even Emily threw in the gold right there. My man Lewis, he's dead on with this. There is camaraderie in other fields, but there's nothing like the camaraderie I think that exists in the hospitality field. And then you double that with being at East Carolina, which I still think is probably one of the most special places on the face of the earth. So here is another one. I don't know if you ever, I feel everybody did that was at ECU at a certain point. Mrs. B, I don't know if you ever had the chance to interact with Mrs. B.
It sounds familiar, but I don't.
Oh, so maybe you didn't get a chance. She worked at dining hall, and she was just the sweetest person. Always cheered you up. Yeah.
No, okay. So my story with her was there was a line. So freshman year, like the first week of classes or whatever, I'm in this really long line at the dining hall. And this is so funny because that's exactly who this is. I'm in a huge line and it's taking forever to get through. And then I finally get up to her for her to like scan my thing. And she is like, how are you? How are you in your first day? How is everything going? Are you feeling
Miss
comfortable
B.
here? I'm like, honey, swipe, go. Coming from upstate New York, we were this, and I was trying, I didn't know how to calm down and like take in the moment. And I was like, this woman's crazy. She's asking everyone how their day is. And like there's a line out the door, swipe and go. But yeah, she was really sweet. I couldn't remember her name, but yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, that's who she was. Yeah, she was sweet.
Mrs. B, the cupola is another so ECU thing. Now, obviously, you didn't walk under it if you graduated in 4 years, because that is the saying that if you walk under the cupola, you're going to extend it. So I don't know how long Larry was there, but Larry, if you're still listening, can you let us know, did you walk under the cupola? Did it take you longer than 4 years? I don't think Laura did. Laura may have to chime in. But I know oh yeah, that's my mom. And actually now my family makes fun of me because I've adopted the St. Augustine, Florida pace. Yep. And even my kids, they're like, man, you used to like walk and it was like you were running. Now 4 years, that's my man right there. Yes. And he was a football player, right? Yep. So that is a big thing there. Here is another piece of kind of ECU thing. You can't spell parties without pirates, right? So ECU party school reputation. I'm sure there's a lot of stories that could be
probably not
could be told. Right? A lot of stories that could be told there. But I touch on parties for the last piece because I definitely want to get into the Vegas trip. That was actually, you guys were the first group that went on the Vegas trip. We had done a New York trip before. There was always the idea that, hey, we don't know if we want to take ECU students to Vegas, but we did have.
Yes.
Oh my God.
We were always in the top 5 party schools ranked by.
Yeah, Playboy ranked always in the top 5. And I remember people telling me when I said I got the job at ECU, they were like, dude, you're going to ruin your career before it even starts. You're going to go to this party school and you're going to want to leave after a year. And I was there for 12, right? And then cried when I left.
Yeah.
So going on the Vegas trip, can you tell us what were some of your favorite moments on the Vegas trip?
Well, let me start off why I turned 21. The day.
And then I remember that first day you got sick, so you didn't even get to experience that first VIP night.
I didn't even go out like the night before that. I actually like at midnight. I went out and I had a drink with Mark and Foy like at midnight. Do you remember Mark and Foy? They used to work.
I do because I remember Mark was in one of my classes like back in the day.
Yeah. So I went out with them and I was like, guys, I got to get up. Like we have to be at the airport at like 6 a.m. or something. I'm like, I'm just going to have a drink, go home, whatever. And so I was being good. And we got on the first plane and something was off. And I popped all my sinuses like in my forehead. Do you remember you went to like Starbucks and got me like hot water?
Water, that's right.
Steam would help. Like,
oh my God, that's
and
right.
I remember looking at you being like, Rivera, I don't think I can get on the second plane. Like I'm in that much pain. I think if I get on a plane again, it's going to happen. And so we luckily had family friends that were in Vegas and he came and picked me up at the airport.
That's right. I remember that.
To the emergency room. And the doctor was like, how are you like functioning right now? Like you should be out. So the first night he gave me so many pain pills that I was passed out. I slept the whole night. So you guys all went out and partied and I stayed in and I was passed out in the bed. So that was fun. But probably one of my favorite nights was the Ghost Bar. Do you remember the Ghost Bar? It was the
Yeah.
went out and you can like look down.
You look down, it had like the plexiglass bottom.
And we had our little table and we were all just hanging out and having, shooting the shit. But I remember hating, you guys loved that magic show and I hated it.
Oh my gosh, I remember that because I absolutely loved it. We actually ended up sitting next to each other, I think, watching the Chris, and I was sitting there like, this is dope, right? This is so cool. And you're just sitting there like, this is the weakest shit.
Well, it was because I like theater background because I like musicals, and I'm like, there's a trap door, there's that. I'm like, this is so not even like fun for me. I'm like, couldn't we have gone and see like the Blue Man Group or something?
It was hilarious because I was so excited. And finally I was like, please stop. You're gonna ruin this for me.
We were probably loud and obnoxious.
Well, I think my favorite moment was when, I don't know if you guys remember Brittany Cobb. She was working at TI and she got us VIP service and bottle service at TI.
Yes, I remember that. She was really
she sat and hung out with everybody and stuff. That was one of my favorite moments because I think it showed that transition of where people from ECU could end up, right? So
I remember that.
Snap. I don't remember this, man. Larry got Dr. Taylor to do a Jello shot. That's great. Dr. Taylor's retired now. She is in Fort Myers. Yeah, she retired from Florida Gulf Coast. We talk every now and then. I miss her a lot. Yeah, I do miss her a lot. So
I didn't even know she was down in Florida. What do you guys? Everyone from ECU just goes down to Florida now?
Just goes down to Florida, right? And my other favorite moment, and hopefully Larry will remember this. It was Drew's birthday, I think.
You guys went to
were there,
right?
Yeah. So Drew was like, "Hey, I want to go to." It was Crave, I believe. It was a gay bar, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we went. The whole group of us went. And that's when Larry and I put Drew in a sandwich. You remember? And there's a picture somewhere. But we had such a good time. And like you said, everybody was just having a good time, just chilling, relaxing. But that was, I think, that first time that ECU, where we showed them, hey, we can go have a good time. The students are going to come out of this learning more. Yeah, there was so much good stuff that happened there.
The whole point of us being there was that convention center, like the hospitality
that
we went to. And I remember you got a little tipsy.
My God. God, yeah, man, because they
older and you were like, Cole, I need food.
Yeah, it was at the tastings, man. And so everybody's like, you got to taste it. And I was like, man, this is good. This is good. And next thing you know, I want to say it was at the sake, right? The sake table. So you're sitting there tasting them all.
I had a pass from Wasabi 88 too. They bought me a pass so I could try the new upcoming sakis and everything for the restaurant. So they kept scanning my code and kept giving me so much sake. And we were there and I don't know how much sake we drank. But it was.
And Larry, I agree with you. We did have the best service at Crave. That bartender remembered our entire group's drinks and everything. And I think that also showed people the elevated service at some of the places we went to. So just so you guys know, I am looking at reviving that trip once we get past this pandemic and everything here at Flagler College to take students to the conference. Hopefully we can do the trifecta. And it's a result of what you guys have done. So we're looking at New York, Chicago, and Las Vegas. As all part of a kind of a lecture series outside of class, and it's all because of you guys. So thank you guys for that. And yes, Larry, it was Crave with a K. So Lauren, as we are, I want to ask you kind of a couple of things. We didn't even get to music. It's crazy. We've been talking for an hour and we didn't even get to the music piece that we were going to get to. So I'm going to ask you this one quick little question, and I would love to get your take on it. You are married to a musician, right? So a couple of questions. What's it like to be married to such a handsome, awesome musician when he's out? And the second follow-up to that is, what is your favorite thing to drink listening to his music? Like, what's the best drink to drink listening to his music?
Okay. He's gonna.
I know, right? That's a lot. Right? A lot right there.
Yeah, he's like, wife, what are you going to say? The best part of being married to a musician is that we live in a hurricane valley in North Carolina, especially Wilmington. We kind of poke out and we just get hit with a bunch of hurricanes. And if you lose power, being married to a musician is wonderful because you're entertained throughout the entire time. We actually got, this was a while ago, Wilmington got hit, they were about to get hit, I'm blushing. Wilmington got hit with a hurricane and we were supposed to get hit worse. So we actually went to his dad's house in Greenville and stayed there. And his dad was at a conference, I think with his mom at that time. And so we had the whole house to ourselves, and Greenville actually got hit worse. And there were trees dropping down like everywhere. It was insane. And I remember we had like candle lights because we had no electricity, and like we weren't really prepared for it because we weren't in our own home. So we didn't have like a bunch of batteries and that kind of stuff. But he just like walked out, playing guitar, and we would like, what song am I playing right now? And then he's also like classically trained in violin, which is like pulling my heartstrings. And he came out of his mom's like little sunroom with her violin and started playing Phantom of the Opera. And I'm like,
That's dope.
So I'm
going to have to have him on. I'm going to have to reach out to Dave and have him on. And I've heard him play, and I was like, man, this guy's dope, man. So
his EP is about to come out, so I'm very excited about it. It's all his new music, and it's very new and different stuff than you've ever heard him do. It's more pop.
Please make sure you give me that information. I'll throw it up on my socials. Because I tell you what, I remember that one time I did hear him play live. Actually, I want to say it was maybe a couple of times I heard him play live.
Yeah, I think you went with a couple of shows.
He's a great entertainer. I just think he's awesome. Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Dave. You are definitely going to get the invite. And I would love to have you on the show, brother. I think you're awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. Lauren, you are lucky to have him. I will say that, right? And Dave, you're also lucky to have Lauren. I will also say that. And I will say this. It's weird calling you Lauren. I'm going to have to start calling you Dixon. I'm going to have to. Yeah.
He's like still signs cards like LC, like love and stuff like that. So yeah, we haven't really adapted to the LD yet. But there was a second part.
How about drinking? Yeah, how about drinking? What's the best kind of drink? And even if it's not something you're drinking, what would you recommend to somebody? Hey, when you're sitting there vibing to his music, what's the best kind of drink maybe somebody could be drinking while listening to Dave's music?
I would say something with a little higher acidity because it keeps your palate like cleanse. It kind of wakes your palate back up, so you keep drinking more, and the music just gets better and better and better. Not that it's bad in the beginning; it's fantastic, but before the end of it, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is like, John Mayer, which he does. His sound is a lot like that. So, but yeah, I tell every when a new account is opening and they're like, hey, like, I have this business background, but I've never been in the wine industry. And they're like, I like buttery Chardonnay. And I'm like, no, you won't. Give yourself 6 months. And the amount of like the wine will be like eating a steak all day. And you're going to want something that's high acid, clean, high altitude. That's just going to wake your palate back up again. So that's what I would say.
Cool. And here we have Laura talking about how great he was at the 10-year reunion. And he said, hey, I know I am lucky. That's awesome. Glad to hear that. Sound better with a more one drink. I love it. So Beth is saying tequila when she's listening to Dave's music.
I'm a big tequila girl.
So as we're wrapping up, we're kind of drifting past the hour mark. Here's your chance just to kind of give your final thoughts. It could be about anything you want. So take it away. What are your final thoughts on anything related to the show tonight?
Well, I want to thank you for having me on. This is, I knew it was going to be fun. You're like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, you can ask me anything, man. Like we could talk forever about nothing.
I was about to say, we could talk. Yeah, we could talk forever. And we haven't been around for a while. So this is great catching up with you.
And I appreciate you doing this kind of stuff. I think it's great. I think, again, having all these different people on, it's bringing this side of the hospitality industry, not just wine, but you're introducing all the different areas of hospitality and tourism, which I think is just fantastic. And it's always fun. I love I tune in all the time just to like you have an energy to yourself, and
Oh,
you,
thank you.
you know, and it's fun just to chat with you and see all the different people that you've had on, it's been fun. But yeah, no, I appreciate the platform. Not a lot of people are very intimidated by wine. It can be a very intimidating industry, and it's not. It's really not. People are always like, "Oh, the legs," and that. I'm like, that's sugar, man. More legs that has more sugar. That has nothing to do with the quality of the wine. But I appreciate just the awareness of it, and obviously shouting out my husband as well. I appreciate that too. So.
Oh, no problem, not a problem at all. I'm just so glad you're able to join me. It was great, kind of kicking back and talking old school, because like you said, that group that you were with, and along with a lot of the other groups that I had the pleasure of running into at ECU, the connections we've developed over the years have just been so great.
And we still all have contact all the time. Like, people usually get away from college and they don't really talk to their classmates much anymore. And I'm in constant contact with them. I love still being in contact. Drew cracks me up. His Facebook posts all the time. I love Drew. And I think Chelsea just moved down here. So I even have someone in Wilmington now, which is really
cool. That's cool. That is awesome.
Yeah. So I'll be just exactly. I'll be forever grateful for my ECU time. And obviously I love still talking. I think I told you this. I was tasting with a client, and she's like, "Oh, I went to ECU." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And she's like, "Oh, yeah.
Annalise Berry. Annalise Berry. Yep.
She was like, "Were we there at the same time?" I'm like, "Oh, you're so cute." No, but thank you. But yeah, and she said it. She was like, "Well, my favorite person was Dr. Rivera," and I'm like, I just smiled, and I'm like, "Same, buddy." You really stayed with your students, and you stay in connection with your students, and it's just fun and we appreciate it, and we're glad for having this connection.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I do tell everybody that I take credit for Larry finding the most amazing wife he could have found in Laura on the Vegas trip, since we helped set that up. So I will take credit for that. Thank you, Mom, for the vote of confidence. And Mama Cole, I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. And the last count we have, oh my God, we used to get up at 6 a.m. and go work out. I can't do that anymore, dude.
6 a.m., but I remember going to the rec sometimes.
Yeah, I can't do this 6 a.m. anymore, but I hope everybody has a great evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. I also want to take this time to let everybody know that Roll the Dice with Dave is going to be taking a break. As much as I love being on the show, I love going to watch my kids play athletics more. So both my sons and my daughter are playing baseball and softball, and we're in the middle of baseball and softball season now. They play a lot of games on Tuesday nights, and it just makes it tough to get back. So I'll be taking the next few weeks off so I can just sit and be a dad, which is probably my favorite job in the world. I will still be posting information and giving you updates, getting some pre-recorded material posted on Roll the Dice with Dave. So be on the lookout for when we come back live. I will be looking for more content, and if anybody is interested in hopping on, just let me know, and I would love to have you on the show. Lauren, again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was so great having you. Much love to you and Dave, and I hope everybody has a happy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow and a great rest of your week.